Hey guys, Kevin Bopp here, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast, where our mission is to help you build and maintain massive amounts of cash flow through income-producing real estate investments. And our guest for this week's show is Director of Investor Relations at Legacy Group, Josh Ziegelbaum. Now, Legacy Group is an alternative investment platform that targets opportunities with high social and environmental impact in Latin America. The team at Legacy generate value by leveraging their team's local knowledge and international expertise to provide a direct link between investments in developing markets and the rest of the world. They provide their investors a chance to invest directly in projects that not only produce favorable returns, but also have a positive social and environmental impact on all relevant stakeholders. Now, in Josh's role, he's responsible for managing investor communications, onboarding individual and commercial clients, as well as overall support of the company's initiatives. Now, prior to joining Legacy Group, Josh was also the VP of Business Development for Life of Our Capital. And so with that, guys, it's my honor to welcome my guest for today's show, Josh Ziegelbaum. Josh, how you doing, my friend?
Kevin, I'm doing great. Thanks for that colorful intro. Appreciate it.
And I'm hoping that you're going to expand on it a little bit. Normally, normally they just hit at the high level. So I'm going to, what I'd like to do, just for those that aren't familiar with you and your company, have you take a few moments, take the mic here, and just kind of fill in the gaps there, the voids, and tell us a little more about yourself and how you ultimately found yourself into this position.
Yeah, I would love to dive into that, Kevin. So, Director of Investor Relations, you already mentioned that. I'm based in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Prior to moving down here, I grew up and worked in central New Jersey. So my background's in private banking and wealth management, which brought me down to the Miami area. I was previously with Wells Fargo Advisors doing relationship management, full balance sheet banking services for a book of high net worth individuals and business owners. That took me to where I am in the private space. So I found the partners who I work with today at Legacy Group 2.5 years ago, and it's been a great ride ever since. We've built, since actually prior to when I joined, the Green Coffee Company, one of our flagship portfolio companies, was founded in 2017 by our firm, and we built it entirely with outside investor capital. So as Director of Investor Relations, now I manage all of those relationships. We have primarily US-based investors here in the States, and we're building the largest coffee producer, or we've already built the largest coffee producer in Colombia. And we're really just getting started. We're scaling up that business. I'm expected to go into our Series C funding round in August, which we'll dive into momentarily. But we are opening up Colombia as a market for outside investment. We're making the process as easy and frictionless as possible. So we have a US structure where investors can get access to our portfolio companies in Latin America through a friendly US business environment. Through that holding company, you own all the real assets and the rights to its cash flow down in Colombia. So we're over 5,000 acres of coffee farmland today, and growing. 260 investors to date, just over 30 million in assets under management. And like I said, going into this Series C, we expect to at least double our AUM in the short term. And we're providing great opportunities for our investors to get cash flow, exposure to alternative investments, emerging markets. It's a really cool thing that we're doing, and happy to dive into more of that during the show here, Kevin.
Yeah, no, definitely would love to dive into the, more the granular portion of the investment itself. And I guess just real quick, just one question came to mind. I don't want to lose it. As far as the Series C funding that you guys are bringing in, is that ultimately to increase production in the existing farms that you own, or is it to expand and actually purchase additional farms? I believe per the bio or per your company's info, you have roughly, I think it's 13 or 14 production farms. But just would you mind answering that question?
Yeah, absolutely. So it would definitely be growth capital to further expand. Okay. So we want to bolt on additional acquisitions in the area in which we already operate. So our current farmland is in a town called Salgar. It's about 2 hours outside of Medellin, Colombia. Mm-hmm. It's a coffee town. Most and foremost, that's the biggest industry there. We're the largest employer in the town. So we want to do additional acquisitions there. And we also want to acquire farmland in a region outside of that so that we can control year-round production. There's also a budget to acquire or build out a U.S. roasting facility. So at the coffee company, we're doing wholesale B2B green coffee, and we're looking to go more vertical and bolt on a roasting component so we can make more margin, go further down the value chain. So that's definitely part of the growth plan. So it's certainly growth capital to take this thing further. We have a goal of exiting the business in 2026. That's our target exit year. And we're anticipating to do that through an IPO in public markets, which is a bit different than maybe some real estate investors would be used to, because it's an operating business with real assets. So it's a bit different in that component. So we're scaling this business. It's a balance sheet business with real assets and cash flow. And we're aiming to exit through IPO in 2026, but we are dual tracking the business for a sale once it's positioned. And in order to do so, we would definitely entertain a sale as well. But that's kind of the plans, but definitely a growth funding round for sure.
Fantastic. So I know that Legacy Group, which is ultimately the parent company of Green Coffee Company, you know, there's a number of other initiatives. So maybe give us a little bit of additional background on Legacy Group itself.
Sure, that's great, Kevin. So we're a private equity firm, an alternative asset manager that's opening up access to the Latin American market to our US-based investors. So we have boots on the ground there. The two partners at the firm live in Medellin, Colombia, and they work out of there. We sit on the board of Green Coffee Company, so we're heavily active managers. We appoint senior management. We make decisions on behalf of our investors. We really drive the business forward and take our international expertise and apply that directly at the portfolio company level. So we're an asset manager and a general partner in the business. And we have, like I said, 260 LPs or limited partners who are participated in our previous funding rounds as investors. And we're growing. So it's open to accredited investors only. We do offerings that are able to be marketed. It's 506C offerings, but we only accept capital from accredited investors. So yeah, we're a private equity firm operating in Colombia, but it's a U.S. management team.
What are some of the biggest benefits of investing outside of the U.S.? I know you'd made a mention that the majority of your investors are U.S. based, and so what exactly are a lot of these investors seeking in these alternative investments outside of the U.S.?
Yeah, Kevin, we're noticing that most of our investors are heavily allocated in U.S.-based assets, whether that be the homes that they own, the residential properties that they own that are for investment purposes, maybe mobile home parks. I see the sign right behind you there. It could be stocks and bonds that they have. Most of our investors are heavily domestic. And with everything going on globally and these supply chain shocks that we've seen, the looming recession that we all think is coming, which is probably already here, investors are looking for other markets to diversify, not to strip out all their investments from the US, but to diversify into other markets so that if things kind of continue on the trajectory that we're on now in the US, there's a buffer and another market that's growing that isn't necessarily in contraction mode. So kind of just diversifying geographically is important to our investors. And when you typically think of investing in other markets, you might think of Asia, you might think of Europe. Those areas right now are looking less attractive due to the global macroeconomic issues, the war that's happening in Europe, in Eastern Europe at least, and Asia's involvement in that, kind of like the increased tensions that we're having with our counterparts in China and whatnot. We think Latin America is a right market when you're looking to get outside the U.S. So I think really just diversification is the main reason that investors are looking.
I'm assuming probably one of the biggest hurdles that you might have, I mean, being in the investor relations side of the business, is just helping folks gain a level of comfort, and more specific to those individuals that have not invested outside the U.S. Before. And so talk to me about, I guess, maybe some of the common misconceptions that potential investors might have or do have about, taking their capital and putting it in a foreign country.
Yeah. So we get through that in two ways. First is the structure that I mentioned, being domestic here. So in terms of the vehicle that investors are investing in, it's a company here in the States. So investors can be at ease and have comfort in the fact that they own common equity in a US-based holding company. Think of that in terms of like owning shares in Coca-Cola here in the States, but Coca-Cola has operating subsidiaries in other countries and production in other countries, but investors are comfortable owning Coca-Cola because it's a US-based company, but and they're at ease because of that. So that's kind of the first step, I would say, is that they're not technically sending money overseas. The investment is done here domestically. Now, obviously, we're deploying that for assets and infrastructure there, but I think that's a good one that investors can get behind and use to overcome maybe some misconception about investing internationally. And then besides that, we view Colombia as very capitalistic, very ripe for opportunity. I think that you notice that businesses are very antiquated and fragmented in certain ways, and it creates opportunity for asset managers such as ourselves to buy good deals, do value add transactions as it relates to farmland, and really just kind of be light years ahead of the competition.
Mhm.
So if you're doing something like this in the US, there's so many, well, one, you wouldn't be able to do it in the coffee space, but if you're doing like a similar type of strategy, like a acquisition roll up strategy, you'd be hard pressed to do it here in the States.
Yeah.
And there being so different, I would say, and not as sophisticated, it creates a lot of arbitrage like return opportunities. So when investors see the projections that we're putting out in our financial summary, you know, I don't think that that would be possible to achieve here in the US. So investors get comfortable because they want to add alpha into their portfolio, and we don't believe that that's possible in certain regards with a balance sheet business here domestically.
Yeah. Give me an idea what, projections, but also past performance as well. Can we speak to that?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that, Kevin. So to date, we've done all up rounds. So our seed funding round was at $500 a share. We did that back in 2017 and 18. And we moved into Series A, and we just finished our Series B at the end of last year, which was at 700. And now we're going into our Series C, which we're seeing, at least in our indicative pricing, to be between 1,000 and 1,200 bucks a share. So to date, our earlier investors who came in at 500, they have significant unrealized gains in their investment. It's reflected in their investor portfolio, of course. And we've grown the business from an idea for those seed investors to the largest coffee producer in Colombia and a macroeconomically significant player in the region. In terms of projections that we're forecasting from today, we have a pre-Series C presentation that we put together as of the date of this recording, and it's modeled at $1,000 a share. And we're forecasting 8x net returns or an 8x net equity multiple through a 2026 exit that equates to a 53% IRR through 2026. So definitely juicy returns, and it's possible because of that Latin American component and really the opportunities that we're able to identify for our investors, and the fact that it's an operating business with different verticals that can get a larger valuation at exit than just like a typical plot of land, for example.
Got it. Are there any unique risk associated with things such as, just, international affairs or political risk, or, a season of bad harvest, or, just climate change is more of a long-term risk. I mean, it's not impactful on a year by year basis per se, but just, are there, what ultimate things that are out of your control can, foil, a given year of harvest? And I don't know how often coffee beans are harvested. I don't know if there's multiple points throughout the year that they're harvested. I have no idea what that cycle looks like. And so, but just really looking for what are any of the, again, fairly unique risks associated with this business model?
I would say weather is the largest risk when it comes to agriculture. You can mitigate that risk as much as you can, and we do that in many ways. We have sensory equipment on the farms that monitors weather patterns and such. We check into how much rain is coming. We monitor sunlight, and then we're proactive in our planting methods and how we take care of existing plants at the farms. So we do that through technology and weather systems and whatnot, but you can only mitigate to a certain extent. So if there's heavy rain or a very dry season, that could affect the output or how much crop there would be yielded in a given year. It's an annual harvest primarily for coffee. So in the region in which we operate now, it's around Q4, so around the tail end of the year.
Okay.
There's a partial harvest in the spring, but it's really an annual product
Okay.
for the most part, which is one of the reasons we're looking in a region outside of where we are now, so we can have in a different climate of Colombia, so we can have year-round production. But yeah, weather is definitely one, and we mitigate that as much as we can. And then as far as taking care of the trees, our chief agronomist, Marino Restrepo, is formerly the head agronomist for Starbucks in Colombia. So we brought him in to take care of those matters for the company. Our CEO, Boris Woolner, he's a 25-year veteran of Colombian agriculture. He's Colombian German by descent, but he's taken a lot of the advanced practices that we see in developed Europe and Brazil, and he's applying that at the farms. So the technology and the equipment that we have, arguably the most sophisticated in the country. And in terms of other risks, you mentioned the political stuff. we don't view that as a major one right now. Coffee is the national product of Colombia. We're doing a lot to lift up the communities in which we operate. So we provide, equal and fair employment, above average wages, and the people love us in the community that we're in. And we're the largest employer in the town. I think I mentioned that, in the town of Salgar. But the human component is something that resonates with me when I go there and I see the impact that we're having on the locals. It's something really special, and I think I know that the government gets behind that. We have support from local government. We're part of national organizations as well, and we'll mitigate whatever political risk there is. But we're doing things the right way. Over 2 million people depend on the coffee industry in Colombia. We don't see it going away anytime soon.
Talk to me about the mission of Green Coffee Company. The more so on the side of the positive social and environmental impact that the company's kind of built around.
Yeah, I mean, we want to revolutionize the coffee industry, and do that full circle. So it's from a social component, it's from an environmental component. We want to control the entire coffee chain from production at the farms to the end client. Right now, the end client would be a specialty buyer or a wholesale buyer. However, we're going to be looking to go further down the value chain into roasted product. So it's really like a sustainability story, direct from the farms, producer at origin, at scale, and we're kind of growing this thing into a monster. Is really the goal, is through additional acquisitions, then going more further down the value chain with roasted product and potentially like byproducts. So we're looking at ideas and how we could monetize like the skin of the coffee cherry, which is essentially garbage now, and turn that into an additional revenue stream. So really just going fully vertical in the coffee business from the farms in Colombia to here in the States.
Again, I don't know the coffee business all that well. Are there any other major international companies such as yours that have executed on that business model and all the various verticals that you're seeking to go into?
Not one that we're aware of that's going into all the verticals that we're doing, especially not in Colombia.
Fantastic. Josh, what haven't I asked you as it relates to Green Coffee Company, as it relates to the business model, as it relates to potential investors listening, wanting to know more about the investment opportunity? What have we missed, if anything?
Well, I've been alluding to the Series C. It's not something that is launched yet, but I believe this recording will be going out, probably close to when we have the Series C launch. So I would encourage, if you didn't ask me, maybe we put this in the show notes, how to get in touch with us, what the minimum investment is. I could touch on those things here. So like I said earlier, open to accredited investors only. We've welcomed 260 to date. Our minimum investment is set at $100,000. Our Series C pricing, we're seeing that between $1,000 and $1,200. That might evolve a bit between now and when it's recorded. If anyone wants to get in contact with us to learn more, I'd encourage you to subscribe to our newsletter or send us an email. You can find us on our website, legacy-group.co, or you could shoot us an email, investor.relations@legacy-group.co. And we would love to hear from you. Definitely subscribe to our newsletter. We have plenty of great content there. We pump out videos, press releases, exciting stuff related to alternative investments, Colombia, coffee, the whole thing. That's one we didn't touch on, which I think is important.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. You beat me to it. That's normally at the end of the show. So you got it. You nailed it all. And guys, we'll make sure we put all that in the show notes as well, all the different links that Josh mentioned. And so Josh, that's all I have, my friend. I mean, it just really, is there anything else outside that we didn't touch on related to, again, the investment itself? But I think you hit as far as contacting you and how folks can learn more and sign up for your newsletter. And we'll, again, make sure we put all that in the show notes. But that's all I have, my friend. So unless there's anything else that you'd like to mention, we can wrap this up. But no, it's been a lot of fun. I love niche investment opportunities. I love the fact that you guys are a U.S. based company, and you guys seem to be on a very positive growth trajectory. And so all very exciting aspects. And so wishing you guys all the best, and look forward to maybe having you back on the show here at a future date to get an update as to how things are going.
Thanks, Kevin. I love that. I think we touched most of the major points. If anyone wants to dive a little bit deeper, like I said, reach out to us, follow us, and we'll keep you informed.
Fantastic. Well, all right, guys, that's all we have for this week's show. So until we meet again next week, this is your host, Kevin Butt, wishing you huge success. Take care now.